Hello and a warm welcome to our special report. This week we are in the hill state of Uttarakhand, tracking the impact on the economy and tourism post the 2013 Himalayan tsunami. We are at the Sahel Sudhara helipad right now, and now over the next 30 minutes we take you on a journey to the Kedar Valley and the adjoining areas.
June 16th, 2013, the black day that stirred up the Himalayas like never before, unleashing the fury of nature in Uttarakhand. Ice-cold water barreled down the mountains along with mud and rocks, washing away thousands of people along with roads, bridges and picturesque villages. Almost 5,000 people died and more than 10,000 still missing. Face of the hill state changed forever.
रात में कम से कम 4 से 5 बार एक बार में बाढ़ आई और हर बार में हमको दौड़ के ऊपर चढ़ना पड़ता था पहाड़ी के ऊपर। सब बच्चों को लेके, लेडीजों को लेके, बुजुर्गों को लेके सबको ऊपर चढ़ना। मॉरल का बहुत काम था, लेकिन भैया मौत से बच के आए।
2 years after the tragedy struck the mountainous state, Rajya Sabha TV visited the Kedar Valley to do a reality check.
We've reached the Kedarnath Valley, and the main temple is less than 100 meters away from the place where I am standing. But before we take you down to the villages and show you the life around the Kedarnath temple, let me show you the exact location from where 2 years ago nature played out its catastrophic fury. Witnesses here say that people that night saw mountains of water gushing towards the villages and the main temple.
This centuries-old shrine of Kedarnath is back to life. Devotees are queuing up to invoke blessings. One change is the mandatory noting of the names of the pilgrims in a register. That's one lesson learnt after many went missing in 2013. Temple economy is limping back to normalcy. Be it the flower vendors or Babas, their presence in Kedar Valley is evidence that they have gradually come out of the shadows of the 2013 disaster.
Now the Char Dham Yatra got a very good response from pilgrims from world over are coming.
I'm right now at the rear side of the Kedarnath temple, and what has been the most astounding fact of the reconstruction theory is this big boulder which has been painted red from the sides. This big boulder came gushing down, but it diverted the water towards the left and the right, and it actually saved the main shrine, the main Kedarnath temple. But the flip side is that it damaged the houses which you see there.
But all is not rosy as the pictures suggest. Purohits, Pandits or the caretakers of the shrine are in a grieved lot, as this is the group that earned its livelihood from temple offerings. They say the disaster did not hit them in 2013 but has impacted them this year.
In this tragedy, some 500 pandits who were around the Kedarnath temple lost their lives. I have some lucky ones who managed to escape that night. पंडित जी, आप ये बताइए, आप जितने भी लोग हैं, सब लोग यहाँ पर जो एकत्रित हुए हैं हमारे साथ, वो आप सब केदारनाथ विलेज से हो? जी। पंडितों के पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से इस समय आपकी सबसे बड़ी दिक्कत क्या है?
हमारी सबसे बड़ी दिक्कत अपनी रोजी रोटी को देखते हुए सारी सबसे बड़ी दिक्कत है। आने वाले समय में अभी जो सरकार यहाँ पे कह रही है कि जो हमारे खड़े भवन हैं, तो इन भवनों को तोड़ने की सरकार बात कर रही है। हमारे कुछ भाई बंधुओं को न बहला फुसला करके, मतलब आम भाई बंधुओं को न पूछते हुए, हमारे चंद भाई बंधुओं को उन्होंने बहला फुसला करके उनको कम मानक पर उनके मकान तोड़े हैं यहाँ पे। तो कम मानकों पर वो जो है हमारे यहाँ पर मकान तोड़ना चाह रहे हैं, ये हमें स्वीकार नहीं है।
नहीं, तो आपके कहने का मतलब है कि कोई किसी सरकार आप लोगों से कोई डिस्क्रिमिनेशन कर रही है कि भाई कुछ लोगों को सुविधाएं उपलब्ध हो रही हैं, कुछ लोगों को सुविधाएं नहीं उपलब्ध हो रही, क्या ऐसा कुछ हो रहा है?
सुविधाएं तो कुछ नहीं है, सरकार की तरफ से कुछ भी सुविधाएं नहीं। हम लोग तो ये महसूस कर रहे हैं कि आपदा हम पे 2 साल पहले नहीं, अब आपदा आ गई है हम लोगों पे। जैसे बच्चे वगैरह शिक्षा के लिए देहरादून, ऋषिकेश, सबके बच्चे वहाँ पे हैं, काफ़ी बड़े बड़े बच्चे हैं, तो 2 साल से उनकी फीस वगैरह देना, ये सब आज बहुत बड़ी समस्या है हमारी।
आपको भी अपनी बात सरकार से रखनी पड़ेगी ना?
हमने कई बार रख दी सरकार से।
आप सही बात कर रही है, मैं बताता हूँ।
हाँ, एक सेकंड आप बोलिए।
मैं ये कह रहा हूँ, अभी यहाँ से कोई 25-26 तारीख के दौरान यहाँ के जो DM साहब हैं, वो यहाँ पर आए हुए थे, तो मैंने उनके सामने ये प्रस्ताव रखा। मैंने कहा सर, अगर यहाँ पर राशन वगैरह नहीं आएगी तो रोजी रोटी जितने भी लोग यहाँ पे हैं तो भूखे रहने की बजाय वो यहाँ से पलायन कर देंगे। उन्होंने मुझे आश्वासन दिया था कि 2-3 दिन के अंतर्गत यहाँ पे जो वहाँ ये चावल और केरोसिन की यहाँ पे व्यवस्था कर देंगे, लेकिन अभी तक आज इतनी तारीख तक उन्होंने अभी तक कोई जवाब नहीं है, नहीं हमें राशन प्राप्त हो रही है और नहीं यहाँ पर सरकार की तरफ से कोई हमारे हित में कोई बात कही जा रही है।
लेकिन जब से यात्रा शुरू हुई है, सरकारें बोल रही हैं कि भाई काफ़ी इंतज़ाम हो गया है, चीज़ें सब ट्रैक पर आ गई हैं। आप कह रहे हो कि बेसिक मूलभूत सुविधाएं जो हैं वो बिल्कुल नहीं है, तो ये इतना फर्क क्यों है जो नेता जिसमें बोल रहे हैं और जो एक्चुअल जो चीजें देखी जा रही है?
हमारे लिए यहाँ पे पक्ष विपक्ष दोनों ही मर चुके हैं।
अच्छा,
बिल्कुल, और विपक्ष भी बिल्कुल, जैसे हमारे सांसद जी ने तो हमारे लिए कुछ किया ही नहीं। सांसद जी ने जो BC खंडूरी जी हमारे सांसद।
अच्छा, खंडूरी जी ने कुछ नहीं किया है,
लेकिन हमारी मांगों को बिल्कुल।
रावत जी ने क्या किया आपके?
रावत जी ने भी कुछ नहीं किया, रावत जी भी कुछ बस घोषणाएं कर रहे हैं, बाकी और कुछ नहीं। अभी पंडित आए,
एक करके बोलिए, आप क्या कह रहे हो?
धरातल पे काम देख रही है।
हाँ।
हमारा मेन मुद्दा ये है गवर्नमेंट से कि जिन घरों में उस दिन सैकड़ों यात्री बचे, उनको कृपया तोड़े नहीं।
आपका पीक सीजन है, इस समय टूरिस्ट ज्यादा से ज्यादा टूरिस्ट इस समय आता है, तो क्या आपकी सुनवाई इस समय हो रही है? कोई भी नेता आपकी बातें सुन रहा है?
कोई भी नेता
यहाँ पर नहीं आ रखा है। और मैडम, हमारी ये परंपरा
नहीं, लेकिन अभी पिछले हफ्ते या 10 दिन पहले तक तो रावत जी आए थे इधर,
वो फोटो खिंचवाने आते हैं यहाँ पे।
फोटो खिंचाए और
फोटो खिंचवाने
पटेल भाई ये संदेश दिया उन्होंने कि यहाँ पर केदारनाथ जो है हमने चालू कर दिया धाम, बाकी धाम में अभी कोई सुविधाएं नहीं है। ये पिछले साल पिछले साल जितना जो काम हुआ था, इसमें कोई भी काम इसमें से नया नहीं दिख रहा हमें। जो पिछले साल हमने देखा वही काम अभी तक दिख रहा है।
The numbers in terms of the dead and displaced may not sound alarming compared to similar disasters, but there is a poignancy to what is happening in Uttarakhand. The lasting impact of the disaster being felt on family life, labour patterns, regional economy and education. This has seemingly pushed the state back by several years.
आज भी सैकड़ों गांव ऐसे हैं जो आपदा के कारण सड़क विहीन हुए हैं और उनकी सड़कें अभी तक नहीं बनी। अनेक गांवों में पेयजल लाइनें नहीं बनी, अनेक गांवों में बिजली नहीं गई। ये जो सुविधाएं हैं इसको दें। गांव-गांव में जो टूरिस्ट को देने वाली सुविधाएं हैं, चाहे उसके लिए सरकार से बात करें, बैंकों से बात करें, बात करके युवकों को सुविधाएं मिले। जब तक रोजगार का एक एटमॉस्फेयर नहीं बनेगा, जब तक ना तो यहाँ के युवक को कुछ मिलेगा। अब युवक को कुछ नहीं मिलेगा तो वो पलायन करेगा।
These pictures of devastation are a testimony to what happened that fateful night. But the million-dollar question now is that how can the pace of the rehabilitation work be expedited, because the locals staying here are going through a harrowing time.
The magnitude of the disaster has been such that even 2 years later, you will come across rammed-down buildings, broken sheds, weathered houses and hotels which still bear the mark of devastation. Hear the story of this lodge owner who commutes daily from Gaurikund to Kedarnath in the hope that government will pay him the compensation for reviving his lodge. Till date, no official has met him. He's struggling to make both ends meet.
जब आपदा आई थी तो बहुत पानी था, 40-50 फुट ऊपर, तो उस समय यहाँ पे 60 यात्री थे लगभग। तो काफ़ी लोग बच गए थे, उनमें से 1-2 मैं गए थे, उसमें से पूरा स्टाफ बच गया था। और अभी उस समय से ऐसे ही बंद पड़ा हुआ है। अभी 2-4 दिन हम यहाँ पे रहने के लिए आए हैं, देखते हैं कि सरकार क्या करती है, सरकार की क्या नियम है, यहाँ पे सरकार क्या हमें सुविधा देना चाहती है, इसलिए।
Uttarakhand became a separate state in the year 2000 and since then has seen a massive rise in the number of visitors. Roads were widened, hotels and visitor services grew exponentially. In fact, building a new hotel or a restaurant by the side of the road felt like a smart investment. Kedarnath itself saw a number of cell phone towers, helipads and other infrastructural facilities coming up. And all this set the prices soaring. But when the flood waters struck, Kedarnath seemed to be bursting at the seams. For many, it was like bursting of a bubble.
सवाल घरों के बह जाने का नहीं था, उन लोगों का पूरा बिजनेस, पूरा स्ट्रक्चर ख़त्म हुआ था और जो चीज़ उनको दोबारा रिवाइव करती थी वो एक ऐसा पॉलिसी थी जिसमें उनका बिजनेस भी इस्टेब्लिश हो दोबारा से, उनको कोई रोज़गार मिले, और वो उस चीज़ का बहुत गहरा अभाव नज़र आया।
Post the disaster, there's lack of attention to those who called Uttarakhand their home. It reenacts the ways in which the health of local communities has taken a back seat. For the dolly carriers or the pittus or even the poniwalas carrying devotees, life has taken an ugly turn.
Rehabilitation in the Kedar Valley looks like a long drawn-out story. For example, in this Kedarpuri area, you'll find many villages like these which got completely devastated. 2 years down the line, these houses are there, half damaged, but the construction work is not there. There are no inhabitants, as many people tell us that all the inhabitants either are dead or some of them have gone down to plains like Dehradun.
16-year-old Akhilesh Singh brings devotees from Gaurikund to Kedarnath every day on his pony through the 15-kilometer trek route. His work got impacted because of the dwindling number of pilgrims. There are many poniwalas like Akhilesh who lost their livelihood and have still not come out of the stress.
पानी भी नहीं है, व्यवस्था पूरी नहीं है अभी भी। मुआवजा तो मिला नहीं पहले से, अभी तो सरकार बात कर रही है, तो पता नहीं कब मिलेगा।
Char Dham Yatra to Gangotri, Kedarnath, Badrinath and Yamunotri has been adversely affected because of the damaged roads. Taxi operators are afraid to drive and many suffered huge losses. Deepak Pawar, who runs his taxi service between Haridwar and Kedarnath, is finding it difficult to gather 2 meals a day.
बहुत कम आ रहे हैं कस्टमर, थोड़ा बहुत चल ही रहा है ऐसे। अभी किस्त नहीं हो पा रही है, गाड़ी के ऐसे ही चल रहा है। बैंक की किस्तें नहीं जा रही हैं टाइम पे और टैक्स नहीं भरा जा रहा है।
तो काम कैसे चल रहा है घर का?
घर का ऐसे ही इधर उधर ही से करना पड़ता है, कहीं किसी लोगों के साथ ऐसे हो जाता है। खेती में थोड़ा बहुत घर का आलू उलू करके।
Most of the hotels along the route were damaged and the lucky ones which survived the floods are in a bad shape. Sanjay Rikolia of CRC village downtown runs small restaurants. 2013 flash floods affected his family fortunes to the extent that he had to withdraw his children from a private school.
बच्चे प्राइवेट स्कूल में पढ़ रहे थे, अभी वो सरकारी स्कूल में डाल दिए हम लोगों ने। हमारे पास इतना है नहीं पैसा, इसी पे टूरिस्ट पे हम निर्भर थे।
Time for a quick break now. On the other side, we take you to some more affected villages downhill. Back in a moment. We are almost at 14,500 feet, and you can imagine when the devastation happened, the relief and rescue work was so difficult. And now 2 years later, when the reconstruction is in the thick, you can imagine how difficult the task is. The stones, the reconstruction material, the boulders, groceries, everything is coming by chopper.
The government of Uttarakhand devised a two-pronged strategy to restore the Kedarnath temple area. In the first phase, the government was to construct protection walls behind the 800-year-old temple, rechannelizing Mandakini and Saraswati rivers and taking flood control measures at the Kedarnath area. This work is still incomplete. In the second phase, government was supposed to develop a new township at Lincholi near Kedarnath and also a ropeway service. This is one task that has given the state government a chance to blow its trumpet, especially at a time when Char Dham Yatra is on. It has been restored and is functional.
Trying to send the message to the people and to the devotees of Lord Kedara that we are doing something here, don't worry.
Construction work in the Kedar Valley is still not complete, but many times weather becomes the biggest spoiler because post-noon very often it begins to rain. And even during the hostile weather, you'll find the construction workers carrying on with their work.
All those buildings that had been declared unsafe at Kedarpuri were to be demolished. 2 years down the line, the task remains unfinished. Instead, what the state government has done is to reconstruct new rest houses in the form of snow tents, having facilities of bio-toilets supported by 24/7 service of freshly served food.
पैदल का रास्ता भी कई बार अवरुद्ध हो जाता है, बर्फ आ जाती है, तो बर्फ हटाने में दिन रात हमारी सरकार लगी है.
Devotees, though, still don't seem to be very happy with the pace of work.
To my surprise, I have not found even a single emergency booth with a telephone facility.
There is no hotels, and we have started from the morning 6 o'clock to till 2 o'clock. After darshan only we can eat some food. That is also not nice.
We never find any toilets on the roadsides, and it is difficult for us to change our dresses when it is getting wet.
Reconstruction of Kedarnath after the tragedy had a national resonance, therefore the state government pooled in all its energy towards it. When the trek route from Lincholi to Kedarnath was ready, Chief Minister Harish Rawat invited none but Congress Vice President Rahul Gandhi to tell the world that Kedarnath was ready to roll a red carpet for pilgrims.
जिन लोगों की यहाँ मृत्यु हुई थी, उनकी मैं इज्जत करना चाहता था. 2013 में यहाँ आया था और मैंने अपनी आंखों से देखा था यहाँ क्या हुआ था. तो मुझे लगा कि अगर मैं केदारनाथ जाऊंगा, हेलीकॉप्टर से जाऊंगा, तो उनकी इज्जत नहीं होगी.
Chief Minister also held cabinet meetings in the Kedarnath area to remove apprehensions of the pilgrims.
When I decided to hold cabinet meeting there, people said that it is a gimmick. But by holding cabinet meeting there, I think that things are not so bad here.
Activists feel that the government is carrying on the reconstruction work selectively. For example, roads have been constructed, but the adjoining villages around the hills within 3 to 4 kilometers range have been left out.
केदारनाथ का रूट का जो मेन हाईवे है वो आप देखेंगे कि वो बहुत अच्छी तरह से इस्टेब्लिश करा उन लोगों ने, लेकिन जो हाईवे से जस्ट लगता हुआ इलाका है 1 किलोमीटर दूर या आधा किलोमीटर लगते हुए इलाके, उन इलाकों में कोई बुनियादी परिवर्तन नहीं आया. अलबत्ता वही लोग थे जो केदारनाथ जाकर के काम किया करते थे.
Before the 2013 disaster, the trek route from Gaurikund to Kedarnath temple was up to 14 kilometers and Rambada was one village which was exactly at the midpoint. Post the disaster, Rambada is completely wiped out, it's flattened, nothing remains of that village. But now the new trek route which has been constructed by the government is up to 21 kilometers and the pilgrims who are travelling through that route say that no basic amenity is available there.
State government has constructed a number of helipads due to which the frequency of chopper services has increased. Every 5 to 10 minutes you will hear the sound of a chopper veering around the temple area. A chopper ride costs up to 10,000 rupees to and fro.
The pilgrims should be made aware of that there are proper facilities available on the top done by the state government. Yeah, there are proper tents and all. Yeah. because people are really scared and they don't want to do a night halt.
There are some serious questions for the governments to answer. For example, the state government here in Uttarakhand identified 234 sensitive villages which were prone to disaster. But the list is only on paper and the government has not moved an inch on them. As far as compensation and psychological rehabilitation is concerned, the state government has not done full justice. Look at this young man who owned a lodge in the Rudraprayag area, which was swept away in 2013. He lost 11 members of his family in the disaster. Till date, no compensation is paid and victims like him have lost all hope.
मुआवजा कोई किसी को क्या देगा, कितना दे सकता है? बाकी जो हमारी फैमिली में जो हुआ है हादसा, इतने लोग गए हैं, तो मुझे नहीं लगता उसकी कमी कोई पूरी कर सकता है। लेकिन फिर भी बहुत सी फैमिली ऐसी हैं जिनका वहाँ पे कमाई का वहीं पे साधन था, जो रोजी रोटी वहीं से चलती थी। उनके लिए ये होना चाहिए था कि ठीक है, अब अभी चाहे एक साथ उन्हें आप 10 लाख भी दे दो, 20 लाख दे दो, वो कब तक चल पाएगा?
It was heartrending to see the family, especially in the Sonprayag and Rudraprayag areas where massive devastation took place. I saw homes where ladies were the only survivors left, having lost their husbands, brothers and fathers. I even went to homes where 3 or 4-year-old children were the only survivors left. Now the big question is, what happens to their source of income? And how is the government really going to psychologically rehabilitate these people? Activists have slammed the government's apathy on psychological rehabilitation of women and children. They say infrastructure has been built, but nobody has to do counselling. For example, the state government has opened bank accounts for women, but how will they gather the courage to walk up to the bank? Similarly, schools have been built, but children are not motivated to attend classes after the trauma they have faced.
अगर उनका प्रयास समन्वित प्रयास होता और एक किसी बड़ी कार्य योजना का हिस्सा होता कि हमको 2020 तक इतने लोगों को वहाँ पर पुनर्स्थापित कर देना है, कुछ लोगों को हम बुनाई के में परफेक्शन लाते, उनको हम कल्टीवेशन के फील्ड में लाते, कुछ जो दूसरे टूरिस्ट सेंटर थे, जो टूरिज़्म वाला जिनका काम था, उनको दूसरे टूरिस्ट सेंटर में इस्टेब्लिश करते, तो इस तरह से एक बड़ा रिहेबिलिटेशन हो सकता था, लेकिन वो अभी तक नज़र नहीं आया।
Government of India on June 19, 2013 announced a disaster relief fund of 1,000 crore rupees to Uttarakhand. Of the total fund announced, 145 crores were released by the UPA government. But the state government now says that centre has cut down the funds drastically and is discriminating against the development of Uttarakhand.
The funding pattern of the central schemes have changed. Certain schemes which were for hilly areas only were benefiting the hilly areas, that has been changed now.
हर चीज में ये नहीं देखा जाता कि जनता को क्या देना है, ये देखा जाता कि हमें क्या मिलेगा। उसके कारण से चीजें लेट होती हैं, उसके कारण से चीजें नहीं होती है।
Unprecedented destruction in Uttarakhand was attributed by environmentalists to unscientific developmental activities undertaken in recent decades. Hundreds of villages got submerged, especially the ones along the river banks. The state government has tried to curtail that to a large extent, but Chief Minister himself admits that because of the political patronage, encroachments on the riverbeds cannot be weeded out completely.
It is happening under my own nose, under what can I say?
But now you're the Chief Minister. Why are you so helpless?
I'm the Chief Minister.
But why are you so helpless in curtailing this thing?
Because people are coming, people wherever they find the possibilities of their livelihood, poverty is there, and they just put one polythene thing there and they start living there, and we remove them, then again they come back there.
A report submitted by an expert body to the Supreme Court said hydropower projects were responsible for amplifying the scale of the Uttarakhand disaster, causing environmental damage in the state. The apex court gave clear-cut orders to re-examine 24 out of total 39 proposed hydropower projects and banned environment clearance to any more hydel projects until further orders. The experts now want a rejig of the state's hydropower policy, in which they have recommended scrapping of 23 projects in the Alaknanda and Bhagirathi rivers and their tributaries. State government claims to be better prepared now for any disaster, but there is an air of skepticism as long-term planning is still not in place.
Char Dham Yatra has a national sentiment, and as far as the reconstruction work is concerned, Uttarakhand government has tried to put its best leg forward. But looking at the scale of the disaster, it might take a few more years for the life to be back on the track. Perhaps the need of the hour is a sustained political will. That's all we could pack up in this half hour from our entire team, which includes my camera persons Shudipto, Narayan and Radhikrishna. Goodbye and thanks for watching.